Hello guys, and welcome to another tutorial by Trust. In this tutorial, excuse me, I'm going to show you how to create this flipbox effect using CSS. So if you create a website and you have some kind of pricing, you can use this flipbox effect to display the features and the pricing. So if I hover on the first box, as you can see, it flips to the back and it shows me the price, and then there's a button for buying now. So I'll do that for the next, and as you can see, it does the same, and for the last the same. So essentially, if you look closely at the box, you will notice that there's some kind of gradient here, okay, so such that the color here is a little bit lighter than the one at the bottom right of the box. Okay, so and on the header too, there is this effect here when you hover on it. So we're going to learn all of this in this tutorial, so let's get right to it because we have a lot of code to write. So first off, I need you to get your Visual Studio Code or any code editor you have. I am using Visual Studio Code in this tutorial, but you can get essentially any code editor, be it Sublime Text or whatever code editor you're cool with. Okay, so next I want you to create a folder. So I have a folder on my desktop here, and this one here, I named it Flip. Okay, I'm going to open that folder and show you the components of the folder. So within the folder, I have the CSS subfolder, the images folder, and the flipbox.html document. Okay, so within the CSS folder, I have created a styles.css file and saved it there. Okay, so essentially this is my code editor open, and I have flipbox.html and style.css. They are both empty files. Okay, so now let's get started with writing a markup for this particular tutorial. So I have Emmet enabled on my Visual Studio Code. So essentially I'm just going to use the Emmet shortcut to generate a HTML starter template. Okay, so I just press the exclamation marks and I hit the tab key. If you do not know how to use Emmet, you can check the link in the description where I have a tutorial and I show you how to use Emmet to write your code faster. Okay, so essentially let's get started. So I'm going to start by adding a title to this document, and I'm going to call it Flipbox. Okay, and for my CSS grid system, essentially a grid system is like a CSS layout that divides your page into different columns. Essentially it divides various sections of your page into different columns. Okay, I'll do a tutorial on how you can create a CSS grid system custom by yourself, but for the purpose of tutorial now, I'm going to use the Bootstrap grid system. So essentially what I'll do is I'll open my browser and I'm just going to go to getbootstrap.com. Okay, so getbootstrap.com, and I'll click on get started, and essentially what I need is a Bootstrap CDN, which is right here. So this link here, I'll just click on copy at the at the right corner of the CSS link. So I'll click on copy, and I think I can close this right away. I just need the CSS. Okay, I don't need the JavaScript. I would open up my code editor, and just below the title I would add in my Bootstrap CDN. So this is the Bootstrap CDN. You need to be connected to the internet in order for this CDN to work. If you want to learn how to use Bootstrap in offline mode, then check a link in the description and I would leave a tutorial to show you how you can use Bootstrap in offline mode. Okay, so next I would like us to link this CSS file to flipbox.html. Okay, so I'll go to the next line and I'll just say link, and then I'll hit the tab key. So Emmet automatically generates this code for me. All I have to do now is to locate the CSS file. So I know it's in the CSS folder, and I'll say / and then style.css. So my code editor intelligently suggested the style.css because that's the only file within that folder. So I'll go ahead and save, and I think we can start writing our code. Okay, so let's come in here and scroll down a little, give some space. Okay, so first off I would add a section. So I'll hit the tab key and say section, And basically I'm going to give this section a class of Freebox. So I'll say section.Freebox, and then I'll hit the tab key, and then I have my session here. So I think I should drag this up a little, okay, maybe just one, and then I should give some space here. Okay, so session.Freebox is ready. Now the first element I want to create here is this h2 tag. Okay, so let's quickly do that. So I'll just say I'll create a div. So to create a div with emet, just type a dot. I'll create a div with a class of heading, and then I'll hit the tab key, and then within this div I'll create another div, or I'll create a h2 tag rather, with a class of heading secondary, heading hyphen secondary, and then I'll hit the tab key. Okay, now within this I would add my heading, which is view per pricing. So I'll just quickly do that. I'll say view, and then I'll save. So if you quickly see what this looks like, it's not very interesting. So Control B, and so we have viewer pricing here. So but this is not what we want. We want it centered, and we want it, to have this good nice design. So let's go ahead and keep on editing. So we have this heading area. So first off, I think I should add a comment and say, I'll just say heading, something like that. This is how you add comments in your HTML markup. I use the shortcut. I pressed Control and / to generate a comment. Okay, that's how you generate a comment if you have emet enabled. Okay, so now let's write some CSS. Okay, I know we've not really written much HTML, but then I want us to write HTML and then write the CSS for it, so that we can really follow and understand what is going on. So I'll go to my CSS style.css file, and what I'm going to do basically is I'm going to first add in set kind of. Okay, so to remove any styles that comes with either Bootstrap framework or the default styles of the browser. So I'm just going to say a reset. So I'll just name this a reset, and essentially the first thing I'll do is I'll use the all selector. So this is the all selector, and within the all selector I'll add a margin. So I'll add a margin of 0 and a padding of 0, and then I would set my box sizing property. So box hyphen sizing to border box. Okay, so this is how I essentially reset my page, and then I'm going to add the HTML selector, and within the HTML selector I would add in a font size. So font size of 10 pixels. Now the reason why I'm adding my root selector, the reason why I'm adding a font size as in my roots, which is HTML here, is because I want to use rem. So there is pixels, there is em, and then there's rem. So I want to use rem as a way to find the size for this particular HTML page. And I don't know if you know about the difference between em and rem, but essentially rem is in relation to the root value we put here in our HTML tag. So if I say one rem, if I say let's say a paragraph, for example, I shouldn't be explaining here, but I just want you to understand. So if I say paragraph and I say font size, font hyphen size is equals to 1 rem, it actually stands for 10 pixels. Okay, so you multiply this by value we placed here. Essentially that's how it works. Okay, so I'm just going to remove this and we can continue writing our code. Okay, so next I'm going to add some styles for the body. So I'll say body, and I'm going to, excuse me, and I'm going to add the font family. So font, and I'll say family, and I want the first one to be cursive, and if cursive is not available, I want any sans serif font to be selected. And then what next? I'm going to add a font weight, a default font weight. So font weight of 400, And I'm also going to add a line height, of, let's say, 1.7. Okay, and then let's add a color kind of. So I'll say color, and I'll say I'm just gonna give it a gray. So I think it's hash 777. Okay, so that's the color there. My code editor has brought it out, and then I'm going to leave it at this. So I'll just click on save. Okay, so now let's go ahead and start styling components within the body. So the first section, the first element we have here is the section with the class of Freebox. So let's go ahead and write some styles here. So first off, I would say something like, I'll add a comment and say Freebox style. So I usually like to comment my code, and so let's go ahead and say dot Freebox to select it. And essentially what I just want to do is I want to add a padding. So I'll just add a padding, something like 50 pixels, which will now be 5 rem. So 5 rem for the top and bottom, and let's just leave it at 0 on the left and right. Okay, and next let's add some styles to the heading. So it makes sense to come here and say dot heading, and essentially we want the text to be in the center. So if you look very closely, you see that our text is placed here, but we want it centered. Okay, so I'm going to say something like text align, the text A, just bring out the text align, and I'll set it to center. And maybe I will do some padding on the text itself. So I will do some top and bottom padding for the text. So I'll just say padding, and essentially I will set to 5 rem. So I want there to be some good space on the top and bottom of the text. So that's what I'll do for the. So let me just save and let's refresh our page and see what we've done so far. So essentially we've brought our text to the middle, okay? But then our text is small, so we need to still do some styling. Okay, so let's go back, and this time we're going to target the heading secondary. I may as well just copy it. So Control C, and let's come here and say dots heading secondary. And for our heading secondary, we're going to give it a font size. So font size of, let's say, 3 rems, which stands for 30 pixels. And let's give it a font weight of, so font weight of maybe 700. And let's say we want the text transform to be, so text tr to be uppercase. Okay, so what that does is it makes our text uppercase. And what else do we want to do? Let's say, let's just save and see what we have so far. So so that we can really follow the lecture. So as you can see, we have a big and a bolder text here. Okay, but let's look at what we're trying to achieve. So this is what we're trying to achieve. It has like a gradient color here. Okay, so it starts light green on this end, and then when it gets to the pricing here, it becomes dark green. And then also when you hover on the text, you see that there's some kind of the size of the text increases, the letter spacing increases, and there's this shadow at the bottom. So let's just start implementing that quickly. Okay, so I'll go back to my code editor, and essentially what I'll do is I'll say I'll give it a background image. So background image, this is it here, and I would say I want a linear gradient. So linear gradient, and within this linear gradient is where we can then specify color gradients we saw on the text and how we want it to spread out on the text. So I'll say first that I want it to be from left to right. So I'll just say to right, and then I'll give a comma, and then I would specify this first color and then the second dark green color. Okay, so let's go back here, and for the first color I will do hash. So I have the color somewhere, so I'll say 7e, and 56F. So that will be D56F. And as you can see, my code editor brings out a green color. So this is the first color, right? And then I'll specify the second color. Okay, so I'll say 1D 7E, that's 7, and 0C. Okay, so that's a darker shade of green. So that's like the gradient color. So it will span from this color to this dark green color towards the end of the text. Okay, so now let's go ahead and save and page and refresh the page. So I want us to really follow. Okay, so it's like a background image on the text, right? But just watch, we're going to do some stuff on this and see some very interesting CSS properties. Okay, so now we're going to use the CSS property named background clip. Okay, so I would say and background clip. So this is it here, and essentially we're going to set the background clip to text. So what this does is that it will clip the background of the image and just reserve area under the text. Okay, so I am going to save this and show you what happens. So I refresh. Okay, so it's not displaying because I've not added the web kit. So I'm going to copy this. I'll copy this and I'll prefix it with a web kit. So I'll say hyphen web kit and I'll paste it in. I'll save. So if I refresh now, you see that the background essentially has been clipped. So what is displaying is under the part of the background that displays is under the image. Okay, so essentially what I just got to do is I'm going to make the color of the image itself transparent. So if I say color of this particular text, rather, I'll set it to transparent and then I'll save, and then we should have our effect here. Okay, so you see we have a background image here, but apparently it's not showing gradients. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to check out what is happening. So essentially I'm just going to use my dev tools here. So I would inspect with my Chrome console and I would look for heading primary area, so heading secondary rather, and let's check out the properties. So background image, linear gradient, right? Okay, so essentially it's there. I think maybe the dark green is not dark enough. So what I'll do is let's go back to our code editor here and let's make this green very dark. So I'm just going to drag it down, okay, and then I'll save. So I'll go ahead and refresh this page, and as you can see, yeah, so it's very dark on this area and then it's light here. Okay, so that's the first aspect of the um image. So now next we need to add some kind of animation. Will I say animation? Yeah, such that when you hover on it, it has this effect here. Okay, it's like it grows out. Okay, so now let's see how we can do that. So essentially to do that, all you need to do is to come here and you need to say dot heading secondary. So I'll just copy this guy here instead of typing it out again. So I'll just copy it and I'll now use a pseudo class. So this pseudo class is going to be hover. Okay, and then essentially what I want to do is the first thing I want to do is I want to generate a text shadow. So if I say text and s, I should get my text shadow. And if you've used the text shadow property in the past, the first is I'll say the horizontal offset. I'll set the horizontal offset to be 0.5, so 0.5 rem, and then I'll set the vertical offset to be 1 rem, which stands for 10 pixels, and I'll set the blur to be 2 rem, and then I would use the RGBA to specify the blur color because I want to be able to affect the transparency of the blur color kind of. So I would say RGBA, and of course I would open the bracket and specify the number. So this time I want black, So essentially in RGBA, black is 0 and 0, 0. Okay, and then I'll add another comma, so that's black there. And then I'll say I want the transparency to be 0 point. So essentially I can just say 0.2, and then I'll save. And also I want the letter spacing, so letter spacing will be 0.1 rem. Okay, so I think I missed one there, so 0.1 rem. Okay, and I want to use another property called transform. Okay, before I use this property, let me just save and show you what we've done. So I refresh this page, and over here you see that the text, spacings out, so that's the letter spacing. So I increase it to 0.1 rem. Okay, this actually is 1 pixel. So from the default, it shrinks up, it grows out a little. Okay, and then if you see, there is this kind of shadow under the text. Okay, when I hover my mouse. So essentially what we want to do lastly is we want the text to kind of move up when we hover our mouse. So essentially the way we do that is we use the transform CSS property. So I'll say transform, and essentially I just want to say translate. And of course there's the x-axis, which stands for the horizontal axis, and then there's the y-axis, which stands for the vertical axis. So I'm going to go with transform y. Okay, and I'll just set a value, and for positive value the text will move down, but for negative values the text will move upwards. Okay, so I'm just going to say minus, so I'll just say 0.1 rem, and then I would save. So now let's see what this does. I'll refresh the page, and as you can see, the text spacings out and moves up a little. Okay, but as you can see, the animation is not flowing, it's not smooth. So what I'll do now is I would come to the heading secondary, and I would set the transition for this animation to all. So essentially I'm saying that I want all the animations concerning this particular class to take 0.2 seconds. So I'll just say 0.2 s, and then I would save. If I refresh the page, when I see, it's a little bit smoother, the animation. Okay, so I think we're done with this first area in our HTML, which is the head. Now let's go ahead and write markup and CSS for the flip boxes itself. So let's open up our code editor and go to our flipbox.html page. Okay, so next let's add a comment and say flipbox OX. All right, so in this our flipbox section, this is where we're going to use the Bootstrap grid system. Okay, proper. Okay, we could have used the Bootstrap grid system here, but I didn't want to really spend so much time writing HTML code. Okay, so to use the Bootstrap grid system, we need to first of all have a div. So I'll say dots with a class of container. Okay, and then within the div with the class of container, we need another div with a class of row. Okay, now within the row, that's where we can now have our 3 columns. Okay, so first off we need a div dot div with a class of col and md. This stands for column. Okay, medium sized columns. Okay, so that's what this actually stands for, and we need 3 of these. Okay, because we have 3 flip boxes. So I'm just going to say times 3, and I'll hit tab. Okay, so essentially what happened here is that I generated 3 columns. Okay, so first off let me just space this out a little. I'll hit tab and space tab, and then I'll space this out. So essentially this is what we have. So first off let me just say something here like first box and here I would say second box. So I'm just going to copy box, and here I would say tab, and I'll say third box, and then I'll save. Now let's refresh the page and see what we've been able to achieve. Okay, so essentially we have 3 columns here. So this is first box, second box, and third box. The text are quite small because our size, our root size for our HTML is 10 pixels here. Okay, but we are going to fix all of that using the rem and notation. So that's why this is why the text are small. Okay, so we have 3 boxes already. Now let's go ahead and write some interesting markup. Okay, so I'll come back to my flip boxes and then we can start writing our code. So first off, I would say within the first box, okay, maybe I should separate this and separate them out a little. Okay, so this is the first box here. Now within the first box, I'll create a div. So I'll div with a class of let's see, a class of card. So I'll just say div.card, and then within this card is where I'll write all the markup for our flip box. Okay, so now let's create another div, a class of card slide. I'll say card, this should be dots, not comma. So dots card hyphen slide. Okay, but essentially I actually need other classes here. So I'm going to say something like I want to create a card for the front and the back. So I would say card slide front. So the front. Okay, so this is going to be where all the details on the front of the card here will be contained, and I would just essentially duplicate this. I'll copy, I'll paste this, and I'll change this to back. Okay, so now within this card slide front D, I'm going to just add a what I'll do is I'll just add a space, for example. So I would say, because I would use CSS to add some content here, so but I'll just add a space. I would say, for example, and n, okay, yeah, so nbsp, and then I'll save. And so within the card slide and card slide back is where I will then start adding some content. Okay, so but before I start adding content, let's go ahead and write a little bit of CSS to start actualizing and getting out our card. So I'll save, and I refresh the page here. You see we don't really have anything yet, okay, except for this space here. Or maybe I can just leave this blank for now. So I'll just leave it blank and then I'll save. So I'll come to my style and let's add a comment here. And I'm just going to add a comment and say, I'll say flip box style. See why. So now let's start adding our comment here. So the first thing I'll do is I'll add a class for the card. So dot card. So essentially this is what I'm targeting here, this class here, card. Okay, so let's come back here, and for the card I would say I want the height. So I'm just going to specify the height. I'll say I want the height to be 50 pixels, so that would be 50 rem. Then I would say I want a background color, so I'll just give it a background color kind of, and see background color, and I'll say I want a background color of red. Then I would save. So let's refresh the page, see what we have. So we have this bold background color here. Okay, all right. Now or maybe what I should just do is let's just get all our classes out there. So first off, I will get my class side. So I'm just going to change this to side. So I'll just get the class side class. So I'll come here and I'll say dots, and then I would also get the front, and let's just have our class here. So dots, and then let's get for the last one card side back. So dots again, just going to change this to back. Okay. So we have all the card sides here. So yeah. So now let's write our styles completely and inclusively. So I'm just gonna remove this here, Control X, and in our card side, that's where I would probably first add my height. So I'll just bring my height from the card, so Control X, and I'll put it in the card side, and I'll say Control V, and then I'll continue adding some styles here. So I want to split the settings for the card side front and card side back. So for the card side front, I'm going to add a background color of red. Okay, and then for the card side back, I'm going to add a background color, a different background color essentially. So I'll just say maybe something like green. I'll delete red. I'll save. Okay, so let's just go ahead and refresh the page and see. Yeah, so I think there's an issue with our CSS. So let me look at it properly. So card side back. So we have card side front, card side back. I did not save it initially, so if I refresh it now, we should have two cards. Okay, so this is the card side front, and this is the card, the color for the back of the card. Okay, so essentially we have two cards here. Okay, so essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my HTML markup, and for my front card side, I would say I'll just write front there, so FRONT, and for the back I would also write back. Okay, so I would save, and I think I should refresh the page, and okay, so there's front here and there's back here as well. Okay, so let's just come back here to our CSS. So now you need to watch this very carefully. What we're going to do right now is we're going to add some styles to transform the card. In other words, we want to rotate the card, and that style is going to be a pseudo class. Okay, so card side back, yeah. So now let's say for the card side front, so I'll say dot card, and I want that when you hover on the card, and then I also want to set for the card side front, so and I'll just say front. So I want to set a transform property, so transform, and I'll say translate. And essentially what I want to do is I want to translate, I want to rotate rather, so not translate, rotate. So rotate and in the y-axis. Okay, so I want to rotate it in the y-axis, and then I want to set a degree. So for the card side front, I would set it to rotate minus 180 degree, so that should be DEG. Okay, and for the card side back, so I'll just copy this and I'll paste it here, and then I'll change this to back. So that's the one with the background color of green. Okay, so what I'll do before I do this is I'm going to set an initial transform property for the card side back. So I'll just copy this here. So it has like an initial transform property. So card side back, I'll copy this here and paste it here. but this time I want it to have a rotation of an initial rotation of 180 degree. Okay, so and then when you hover on it, I want it to go back to 0. Okay, but before we do anything, I would comment out this hover aspect of the code just to show you the effects the card side back has. So let me just comment out this effect. So that's how you write the comment out, and then I'll refresh this page and show you the flip property. Okay, so I needed to uncomment this out to show you the flip property. So I'll save this and refresh the page. So if I hover my mouse on the card, you see that it will flip 180 degree. So apparently this does not work. Okay, it actually works. It's just that the color here is not very prominent. Okay, so this is the front here. So maybe I'll just make this color here white, or initially here I'll just say I'll set the color for the card to #FFF, so that will be white, and I'll save. And hopefully if I refresh this, yeah, so we have this white here prominent. So if I put my mouse here, you see that the front here will switch to this other end. So as you can see, yeah, so it doesn't flip out. The animation effect is not there, okay, because we've not set the transition property and a property called perspective. Okay, and if we scroll down a little, we notice that this back card side back is already initially flipped to the back. Okay, so that's the property we set here in the card side back. So initially it's already rotated 180 degrees, and then when you hover your mouse, it goes back to 0. Okay, so that's what we have here. If I come, it comes back to back. Okay, so now let's set some properties to make it look real and add some cool animation here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come to this card here, and we're going to set a property called perspective. Okay, so it's a so I'll say perspective, and I'll set it to 1500 pixels, which actually is 150 rem. 150 rem. And if you're going to set this in Mozilla, then you're going to need to prefix it, okay, because it's not. So I'll say Moz, and I'll just copy the perspective here again, and I'll just prefix it there. Okay, and then I would save. So one more thing I will do is I will add a transition. Okay, since I've added a transform property in the card, I would add a transition property to make the transition smooth. So what I'll do is I'll come to this card side, because the card side is common to both cards, and I'll set a transition, and I'll say all, and I'll set it to, let's say, something maybe 0.8 s, and then I would set the transition itself to ease to make it cool and slow. So if I refresh this page, I should get a more, so as you can see, it's slower, and it's easier on the eyes. You can see when the transition is taking place. Okay, but then you notice that this is not how we want to leave the front and the back displayed like this. So the way we can make it such that it's like this, just on one shade, is that we use the position absolute. Okay, so let's go back to our code, and this time we're going to, for the card side, because it's common to both, so I would say I'll set the position of the card side to absolute. Okay, and then from the top I want it to be 0, and from the left I also want it to be 0. Okay, I'm going to save this, and let's see what we've done. So I'll refresh, and well, this doesn't look good, and that's because the absolute positioning actually takes that element away from the flow of the page, so it actually affects the width of the element. Okay, to the so what I'll do now is I'll just give it a width of 100%, and then I'll save. So if I refresh the page now, you see it covers the entire aspect of the page. So all right, so we're making progress here. Okay, so what we'll do next is we're going to add a CSS property to make things a little bit. So the CSS property will be backface and visibility, and we're going to set it to hidden. Okay, and let's save and see what that does. Okay, so essentially what that property does is that it puts the front card on the top, and then when we hover, it hides that front card and displays the back. Okay, so basically that's what that property does. Okay, so I think we need some border radius here, because I mean it's just too sharp here. So I'm going to say border radius, border hyphen radius, and essentially it's a very small value, so I'm just going to leave it in pixels. So I'll just say 3px, but I could have easily said 0.3 rem, so that's the same thing as saying 3px. Okay, so that should add some border radius. Okay, and let's see. So there's one more thing. I'll refresh the page and show you. So as you can see, we have a kind of border radius here, but do you notice that when you hover, there is this kind of border around the top here? That's from the Bootstrap property. So essentially what we need to do is we need to set that to transparent. Okay, so I'll just come back here and I will set a border. So I'll say border, and I'll say 1px and solid, and then I'll set the color to transparent, and then I'll save it. And if I refresh the page, you should see now that that is gone. Okay, so it seems like our border has not been removed. I mean the border at the top. So by the time you look at when the flipping is going on, you see that there's a border at the top. So what I'll do is I'm just going to copy this my border, Control X, and I'm going to paste it within the .card class, and then I will save, and I think it should be fixed now. So I'll refresh. Okay, so the border is gone. Okay, yeah, so essentially we have our flip box. Now what we'll do next is that we'll begin to add the content of the flip box. Okay, so this content we see here, we're going to start to add it right now. So let's get and start adding the markup. Okay, so I'll bring up my code editor and I'll go to my flipbox.html, and let's see, where are we? So front. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'm going to remove this front. Okay, and I'm going to add a class. So I'll add a div. So I'll say dot, and I'll add a div with the class of card picture. So card hyphen picture, and then I'll tab it. But I think I'm also going to need another class. So I would say card hyphen picture and hyphen one. Okay, that's because I'm going to want to add, so this is like a modifier for this class here. So because I'm going to add different colors on this particular class for the 3 different cards. Okay, so now within this card, I'm going to add just an empty paragraph. So I'll say empty p. Okay, and then I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, so what I'll do next is that I'll create a heading. So I'll just say h4. So h4, and then I'll hit tab. Okay, and basically what I'll do is I would add a class of within the heading, I should have just used the Emmet's shortcut. I would add a class of card heading. So I'll say card hyphen heading. Okay, and for the heading, for the first one, I think we have seed plan. Okay, so I'll just say seed plan and plan. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to add is the card details. So I'll say dot card and hyphen details, and then I'll hit the tab key. And essentially what I'll do is I'll create this list we have here that contains this okay, I really cannot put my mouse on it without it turning, but then I'll create a list that has the design pages, email marketing, and the other stuffs. Okay, so essentially I want to create an unordered list, and I want it to have 5 children, 5 li children. So I'll say li times, that will be times 5, and I'll hit the tab key. Okay, so now let's see what I did. So I created this unordered list tag that has these 5 list children. Okay, so essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly write the design and pages. I'll hit the tab key, and then I'll say email marketing, and then I'll say 1 year hosting. So one, then I would say support services, and last I'll say back back to top. So I really do not know why I decided to say back to top, but I mean that's what I said. So yeah, so I think this is it for the first one. So let's see what it looks like on our page. So I'm just going to refresh the page, and so we have it right here, right? But as you can see, the front aspect of this page is actually white. Okay, so I'm just going to come to the styles, and I think, where is it? So I say card side front, and I made it red. So I think I'll just make it white instead. So it's white. So that'll be hash. Save. And I think I made the color white here. So I'm just going to comment this out so that it inherits the initial color we set here, which is this gray. I think if I refresh the page, I should have a white background, and yeah, gray color. Okay, so this looks fine. Okay, so now what we're going to do right now is we're going to begin to add some styles to our settings here. Or before we add styles, I think we should just add the markup for back of this card here. Or maybe, okay, I think maybe we should add styles so it's, systematic. So let's go to our styles area and start adding our styles. Okay, so I'll come to styles.css, and I will add a comment. Okay, I've already started adding styles. So okay, so now let's go ahead and add some styles. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to style this first card heading. So where is it? Class of seed plan. Yeah, so card picture. Yeah, so this is the first thing we're going to style. So card picture, and then I'm going to copy this and go to our styles, and then I'm just going to say dot card picture. So I probably should, okay, so for the card picture, I'm going to give it a background size. Okay, okay, one practice I think I want to adopt in this particular tutorial is I want to be able to add in all the relevant classes first. So -1. Okay, so essentially I'm styling the card picture and card picture -1, which is the modifier for that class. Okay, so I will start from the card picture. Of course, I would say I want it to have a height of 23 rems, Okay, and I would say I want it to have a background image. So that's background image, and this time I will say linear gradients. Okay, or well, maybe first what I want to do is I want to say URL. So I'll say URL. I want it to be systematic. So now within this URL, I'll then specify the images folder. So I can just say images, or I can go up images and then / so I have just one image, and that's pic.js. Okay, and then I would save, and now let's see what it looks like. So let's refresh the page. So you can see we have this image here on the um, upper part of our card. So our card is already taking shape. Okay, and then maybe we should give it a background size. So I'll say background size of cover. So that should be cover. Okay, and but if you notice something on our Freebox, it's not just the image we have. Yes, we have the image on the background, but we also have this kind of green gradient here. So it starts very light here, and then it becomes darker as it comes to the lower right end. Okay, so let's set that here. Okay, so first off, I will just give a space, and I will say linear. So it's like a linear kind of gradient. Okay, and then I want the color to go from left to right and then to the bottom. So to right bottom, and then I'll give a comma. And in this aspect, I'm going to use the RGBA notation. So what I'll do is I'll just say the first one, I'll say RGBA, so RG, and then I would open a bracket, and then I'll specify the color. Okay, so I think I have the color somewhere here, so I'm just going to copy it to save time, okay, on our lecture. So I'll just copy it, and then I'll just paste it in here, and then I want it to have an opacity of 0.8. Okay, so that's the first color. So for the second color, basically all you just add a comma, and you add your RGBA again, and this time I'll just get another color. So this color this time is just going to be a little bit just darker. So I'll just copy it here on my notepad, and then I'll paste it. So that's the color, and then I would say okay, so I also want it to have a .8 transparency, or Z. I wonder why this is not coming to the next line. Okay, yeah, it's coming to the next line. So it looks all jumbled up. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just bring it to the next line. I'll just bring this RGBA to the next line, and I'll bring this one to the next line, and then outside of the linear gradient right up, I'll just add a comma, and then I'll bring this one also to the next line to make it a little bit easier on the eye. So essentially I added the background image, and then I added the linear gradient. I specified that I wanted it to go from left to right bottom, and then I added the RGBA 2 colors. So one is light green and one is dark green, and then the image is just under it. So I'll save, and let's refresh the page and see. Oh, sorry, this is what I want to refresh. So as you can see, we have this tint of green on top here. Okay, so well, I think this area here has is kind of sharp, so I think the border radius is no longer showing in this area here. So what I'll do is I'll just let's see, I'll add a class to our card here, and basically I'll just look for the card side. So somewhere here, I think I'm going to make this a little bit big. So card side, and I'll just add a property here. I'll say overflow, and I'll set it to in. So essentially what this does is that if the content of this box here overflows out, it hides it. So I think we have a kind of border back. Let's see, are we, so yeah. Okay, so now let's continue. So having styled our card, I think it's time to go to the next element here. So, and that is the card heading. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this. So Control C, and then I'll go back to my styles and I'll say .v and I'll open it up. So card heading, yeah. Now for our card heading, essentially we want it to have a font size, a font hyphen size of, let's say 28 pixels, because it's going to be bold. So 28 pixels, 2.8 rem, and we want it to have a font weight of, let's just give it 300, and essentially we want it to be capitalized, to uppercase. So text transform, and that should be set to uppercase. Okay, any other thing? So I'm just going to save this and let's see what we have. Fresh. As you can see, we already have a bolder text here. Okay. Okay, so but essentially, if we look at the prototype here, we see that the seed plan is actually on the image here for the front part of the card. So basically how we do that is we give a property a position of absolute, okay, of absolute, and remember that the absolute positioning is also must always be relative to something. Okay, so this is card heading. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let me look at my markup here. So card heading within the card side. Okay, so I will just give my card side a position of relative. So where's the card side? Yeah, so this guy here. So I'll just say tabs and position relative, and then I'll save. So it means this absolute position here is going to be relative to that card side class container. Okay, so position absolute, I would say from the top I want it to be, let's see, maybe 20%. So 20%, and from the left I want it to be 50%. So essentially this styles I'm writing here now will center the text, and then I'll transform, and then I'll translate. So let's just translate and open in bracket. So I'll say minus 50%. Okay, first off, I'll comment this out to show you what I'm doing. So I'll save this and let's refresh the page. So as you can see, this is where our seed plan is. Okay, it's on the image and the color is actually gray. So first off, we need to make the color white. So I'm just gonna say color, and I'll say hash FFF. So that's white. Okay, so now let's bring that to the center, that seed plan. So essentially you translate it in the y-axis to minus 50%. Okay, and then comma, so you add another minus and percent. So essentially we are trying to center this this thing. I would save, and I think we can refresh the page now. So seed plan, but it's not centered. Okay, so what do we do? Let's look at our code. I think we have some issue somewhere. So if I right click and inspect, I think I would find my issue here. So let me just inspect the Okay, I see the problem. So the transform y is 50%. That's where we have a problem. So I'm going to go back to my code, and should be just translate, and then I'll save. I think the problem should be fixed now. So refresh, and if I close this up, you can see the seed plan is centered. Okay, so now let's go ahead and style the next aspect of our page, which is the list. Okay, the another list here. Okay, and then there's this effect here where when I hover on it, it moves that thing down. I'm going to have to fix that. So I'm just going to take a look at my code and see what I did wrong. I think this is it here. The position relative set on the class of card side. So it should actually be on the Control X, and it should be on the card class. Okay, if I save that, and I think if I refresh, everything should just be fine. Okay, so everything is working fine. All right, so now let's go ahead and style this other aspect of our page, and so we can pass to what we're doing here. So I think that's card heading. So I'll just quickly look at my code again, and the HTML aspect. So we've done card heading. So we are in card details. Okay, so this is the card details area. Okay. So I'm just going to copy these card details. So let's see, and I'll go to my CSS. I'll start working there. So card details should actually be dot card details, and I'll add a space and open this up. But also I'm just going to create a class for another list. So this time it will be card details and UL. Then I would also do the same for list item. So LI, save, and then let's start adding our styles. Okay, so for the card details, essentially what I just want for the card details is just a padding. So I'll just say padding. So that should be small letter, not capital letter, and I'll just say 30 pixels. So that should be 3 rem. And for the card details UL selector, I'll just say I want the list style to be none, and then I want the width. So I don't want it to occupy the full width of its container, so I'll just say maybe something like 80%. So that'll be 80%. Then I would also say I want the margin. So essentially this margin property is what I'll use to center it. Okay, so if I let me just save this and see. Okay, so as you can see it's changing. So I would say I want the margin property to be 0 on an auto. Okay, I'll save this and it should be centered. So next I'll do some specifics on the card list item. I would say I want the font size to be, let's see, 10 pixels, so that'll be 1.5 rem. And I'm also going to specify that I want it to have a padding of maybe 10 pixels, so that's 1 rem. And I want the text align to be centered. So I'll just save this and let's see what our page looks like. Okay, so we are getting close to what we have here. Okay. All right. So one thing we're missing though is there is a line that is below all of the list item except the last one. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. So I would open up the code editor once more, and this time I would say there are different ways you can do this. Actually, you can, but the easiest way to do it is to add another CSS selector. So I'll just say dot card details -d, and this time I'm going to use of course I'll select the li, and I'm going to use the not selector. Essentially what I want to do is I want to select everything except the last item. Okay, so I'll say I'm selecting all the list item except the ones that are not, so I'll put in a bracket and then I'll say last child. As you can see, my code editor already gave me options. Okay, so essentially what this is that I'm selecting all of these elements except this item that is not the last child. Okay, and then I'll give it a border, but this time just of the bottom, and I'll say I want it to be 1px solid, so that should be 1px, not ipx, and solid, and I want it to be gray, so that should be hash. I can just say 777 and save, and let's see what it looks like. Sorry, that's here. So ouch, I used the wrong color, so I'm just going to use the E, and I'll save and refresh. Okay, so it's a little bit easier now and lighter. So let's refresh and see what we have here. Okay, so we have this thing going on here. So there's one thing I'm missing here, and that's there's a kind of first off, I think the background color is not just pure white, but then there's a kind of box shadow here, box shadow thing we have going on here, and I have not set that. So let's find a way to set that now. So what we will do is we will go to the card property, I think. So we'll go to the card property and let's just scroll up and see. So I think we should do it on the card side. So let's just add a box shadow here. So I'll say box and I think shadow. Okay, I think we already have a box shadow property somewhere, I think on the heading. So box shadow, and let's put in our parameters. So the horizontal offset will set to 0, the vertical offset will set to 1.5 rem, blur will be 4 rem, and the color, so I'll use the RGBA notation, and oh no, I'll set it to black, so that's 0, 0 and 0, and I'll set it to 0.10 opacity, and then I'll save, and let's refresh the page and see. Okay, so we have this blur thing going on just around the flip box. Okay, and I think it's actually nice. So let's add a little bit of, I think this is too close to the end here, there's some space here, so I think we may need to add a little bit of padding around the card here. Okay, so let's just go to our code editor and let's come to our card details to add some padding. So I already have some padding on my card details. Let's see that it's critically card details and padding of 3 rem. So essentially what I'm going to do is I think I should just increase the size of the overall card. So essentially let me look for it. It's set to 50. So I'm just going to increase it to maybe 52. and I'm going to give the card a height also. So I'll say height of 52, and then I'll save, and let's refresh the page. Okay, so we have a taller card with some space at the bottom. Okay, so that's it essentially. I think I'm having some space up top here, so let me just quickly see what that is. I'll right click, inspect. So let's see, Freebox, select this guy here and Freebox, and let's see what's going on here for our card heading. Font weight, margin bottom, margin top, padding 0. I wonder why I have that space there. Let me just take a look at my code very quickly. Okay, so I found out that it's the Bootstrap class that is giving this what's it called, white space just above there. So let me open my code editor and show you. So in the card picture class, within we have an empty paragraph. So what I'm just gonna do is I just gotta comment it out and save, and then if I refresh the page, you see that the white space up top there is gone. Okay, so let's close this up. Okay, so I think we are very close to what we have on the first area here. We're very close to what we have here. So let's see how we can style the back of the card. Okay, let's go to the original copy we're copying our styles from, and let's see what we have. So we have this background gradient color, so light green up top, and then as it comes down it becomes dark green, and then we have this component. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write the HTML markup for the back of the card. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up our code editor, the back card section. So this is what we have. So where is it? So yeah, so this is its class of card side back. Okay, so go ahead and delete the back you have there, and let's start adding. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a div with a class of call to action. So I would say card call to action. So because that's where we have our button, right? So now within the call to action, we need to have a price. Okay, so we're going to add another div, the class of card price, card hyphen price box. Okay, so that should be box. And then so now within this card price box is where we now have our card price text and the amounts. So but we're going to put that in paragraphs, so I'll just say paragraph. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have done it like this. I'll say p dot card, okay, hyphen price, and then I'll say hyphen text. Okay, and then what I'll do basically is I'm just going to use shortcuts, so alt shift and down to duplicate this, and then I'll change this text to maybe value, so that's for the amount. Okay, so here the text we have here is price, yeah, and for first price we have $199. So let's just add it here. So I'll just say dollars and 199. Right, so next we have a button. So that button is going to be just a standalone button. Okay, so the href is going to be a dead link, so that should be this. And but then we want it to have a class of btn, so that's the bootstrap class, and then I will do btn light hyphen light. So these are bootstrap class, and the last I'll do is btn hyphen custom. This is where I'll use the last class to add some custom styles. Okay, and then within the button, I would say buy now. Okay, so I think that's it for our markup. So it's the back aspect of the card is actually pretty straightforward. So now we can go ahead and start styling the back aspect of the card. So the first thing we want to do is to get this card CTA. So I'll just copy this and then I'll go to the style, and then maybe I'll just add a comment. So I'll say something like, sorry, I'll say something like back card styles, just to, and then I'll say dot CTA. Then also I'm just going to just copy all of the styles here. So I'll do the price box. Let's just get this, and let's say something like dot this, and I'll get the other one. So the other one is price text and price value. So I'll come here and I'll say dot v, and this time I'll just get this. What am I doing? I made here, correct that. Card price. So this should be text. This should be value. Okay. So now let's begin to style this. Of course, we still have the button, but then let's style this first. So for our call to action button, first off, let's even start styling our price box. Okay. So everything in the box, we want to have a color of let's see, color of white. So I'll say hash FFF, and then we want a margin bottom. Okay, maybe the margin bottom can wait for now. It's not really important now. So, but for the CTA, we want to have an absolute position. So position absolute. So I'll just say position absolute. That's because we want to be able to center it. Okay, and then I'll say top 50%, and then I would also say left. So that will be 50% as well. Okay, and I'm going to transform like we did earlier, and then I'll translate, not translate y, just translate, and then I'll say minus 50%. I'll give a comma, and then I'll add the other minus 50%, and then I would maybe do text align, or first I'll give it a width. I'll give it a width of 90%. So that's 90%, and I will do a text align of center, text and align of center. So basically I just want to center everything. Okay, so let me refresh the page and see. I hope my styles take. So okay, so we have everything centered. Okay, we're making progress. Now it's time for us to add some kind of what's it called, styling to these various elements here. So let's go back to our code editor, and I think we should start from price text. Okay, so for the price text, I want a font size, and I'll say size of let's see, 14 pixels. So that will be 1.4 rem. That should be points, not comma. And then I want to transform the text to uppercase. So uppercase. And then for the value of the price, I want the font size. So the price is actually very big, the value. Look at it here, you see that the price is gigantic. So for that, I want the font size 6 rem. So 60, and I want the font weight, font hyphen weight to be 100, so not too big. Okay, so let me save this and see. Fresh. Okay, so we're making progress here. Or maybe let's see. Maybe it came down just a little. Came down just a little, so much. So what I'll do is I would what's it called, positioning property. So where is that? The top, I would reduce the top positioning property here. So let's see, 50%. I would say reduce it to maybe 40% and see. Okay, so I think 40% is fine. Okay, so let's go back to our code and let's do some more styles. So I think we need to style our button. Okay, so let's add some button classes. So essentially we want to use the button custom to style the button. So I'll copy this button custom, and here I will add a comment and say button, and I would say dot button custom. And now basically let's just do a font size. So font size of, I'll do 1.2 rem, that's like 12 pixels. And then I'll do a font weight of 700. I want it very big. Of course, I'll transform to uppercase, so text transform uppercase. And then let's do some padding here. Padding, I want the top and bottom to be 10, so that will be 1 rem, and the left and right to be 2.5 rem. So 2.5 rem. And then I want a little bit of, I want some border radius, so border radius and radius to be 100. But before then I need to set a border, so border of 1px and solid and transparent as well. So let's save and let's go and refresh what we have. So refresh. So the only thing is that the button is too close to this guy here, and okay, I'm not even seeing, let's see, so I'm not seeing the border radius I added. So let's find out what is wrong. So I'll go back to the code and border radius 100. Oh, I didn't add px, so 100 px. Okay, so I think for if you compare the two, you notice that this aspect of the back card is actually higher, and essentially I think it's because we set the top to 40%. Let's just set it back to 50% from the top and save, and I think it should be the same. So price starts here. If I change it, price starts from the same place. Okay, yeah, so we're good to go. So the last thing we need to do is we need to add these gradients, okay, this color gradient here on the back aspect of the image. So we can do that with modifier. So let's go to our style and let's look for where we, so this is the card side bark. So we'll just add a modifier to something like maybe card side back 1, because essentially we only want to change the color. You know, there are 3 cards, so we'll just add -1. So essentially what we'll do is that we'll just set the background color for this particular one to green, and such that for the next cards we can change just the background color using this modifier. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add it to my style. So let's see, add price. Maybe I'll add it somewhere here, so just after the card value. So I'll just say, I think it needs to be, so after card side black. Let me see, maybe I'll just add it here, or I'll go up to my card side. So I just want my CSS to be arranged. So card side back, then we have the hover, card side back. So I'll just add it just after this one. So I'll say Control V. But then let's add a dot here. Okay, so now basically I just add a background image, but remember we already added a background image before somewhere up. So I think I'll just copy it. Apparently I can't find it. So okay, so background image here. So I'll just copy this. So Control C, and then I would look for the card side back one, yeah, and then I'll paste it in and save. So if I come here and refresh the page, see we have this gradient thing going on here too as well. Yeah, I think there's somewhere I needed to have delete. I need to delete green somewhere, so somewhere back. So yeah, so this card side back, I'm just going to comment this out and I'm going to save, and such that this card side back one will take effect. Let me make sure I saved here too, and then I'll refresh this page to show you. So I'll refresh the page here, and yeah, so we have this gradient thing going on. It's better now. It starts light here and it comes down here. Maybe I should just add a little bit of tweak here. So I think to right bottom, and then I'll save. Let's see. Okay, so to right and bottom. Okay, so essentially we have this first aspect of the card right here. All right. Okay, so at this point, I would like you to go ahead and try and replicate this box on these other two columns, okay? And I'll just give you a clue on how to do that. So let me quickly bring up my code editor and show you. So this is the HTML markup for our first box. Okay, so our first box starts somewhere here. So the first card. So let me just write a comment here and say first card. Okay, so this is the first card. Now essentially there are elements that are common to all cards. So for example, on the top, the difference is the color gradient on the image. Okay, so this is green, this is will I say orange now, and this has a different color. So essentially these are the three things that are different on the images. So if you go to your code, let me just quickly open the code. You will see that on the let's see, so the div with the class of card picture, okay, there is a modifier card picture one, and it's on this card picture one that we specified. So let me just look for card picture one, and where is it? So let me scroll down a little and look for card picture one. So yeah, so is this card picture one that we specified the color gradient, okay? So essentially what you need to do is on your you just need to copy all of this code for the first card and paste it into the second section, into the second column, and then change your card picture one to card picture two. Okay, then come to your styles and repeat this CSS styles here, and then change the modifier to card picture two. And as well, you then change the color, this RGB color, you change it to whatever you want. Okay, so that's how you do for the top. Then for the back of the card, essentially what is different is just the color gradient. Okay, so what we'll do for that is I'll bring up my code editor once more and I'll show you the modifier. So where's the back of the card? Yeah, so this is card side back. So essentially the modifier is the card side back one. Okay, so when you copy this whole block and put it in the second column, note that you will need to modify the card side back one. So if you go to your styles.css file, you will see where we have card side back one, and then this is the background image and this is the color. So you just need to replace copy this and paste it again and make it card side back two, and then you just change the color. Okay, so essentially that's how you can achieve these other two boxes. So I want you to go ahead and give this a try, and I'll wait for you in the comment section to see if you were able to achieve this. Yes, this is the tutorial. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. If you're not subscribed to my channel, I want to encourage you to subscribe and turn on the notification, because I post great content for web development and other areas surrounding tech. All right, thank you so much and see you in another video.